Much for tuning into this video and welcome to our newest lesson on SAT Math. And today we're going to be talking about algebra. So I think there's just so many concepts in algebra and a lot of them you're already probably familiar with. But since there's so many concepts, I think the best way to learn algebra, honestly, for the SAT is just to practice all the different types of problems they give you and get a review of it. So let's get started. The first question is very simple, basic algebra that you should already know. It's giving you this equation, asking you for x. Just a quick review. Normally when you solve problems without algebra, without variables, you go in this order, PEMDAS. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Remember, multiplication and division, addition and subtraction are like the same magnitude. You just move from left to right. However, when you're doing algebra, it's the exact opposite, which makes sense if you think about it, because all algebra is just reversing things to find the answer. So you instead do your addition and subtraction first, your multiplication and division next, then your exponents, then your parentheses. So in this case, you only have subtraction, so your answer should be -7. And it is B. Alright, question number 3. What is the solution to the given system of equations? Alright, great. I'm so glad I got asked a system of equations question. This is one of the biggest questions I get on the SAT. Alright, so this thing gives you two equations. Alright, let's look at this. X minus 25. Oh, plus 25. And y equals minus 14x minus 7. Yep. When it's asking you to find the solution of xy, I want you to think of these two things as separate lines. I don't know what this line is, but I know it's going up. I don't really know what this line looks like either, but I know it's going down. The solution is the place where these two lines intersect. So this is just like a visual so you know what the solution is. But how do you actually find the solution? Well, there's two main ways. There's substitution and elimination. For this problem, I'm going to use both methods so that I can show you guys how this works. Normally, there's going to be one method for each problem that works the best. So first, let's try substitution for this problem. You know that y is equal to this. So what you do is you substitute this in for this. So now you have 18x plus 25 is equal to -14x minus 7. Now what you do is you isolate x to find when they equal each other, because this is just saying that these two are the same, which is finding that point in the middle. So now all you got to do is actually solve the problem. So that's just 14x plus 18x, which is 32x. And then 7 minus 25 is 32. So that means your x value is a -1. Now you have your x value. You plug that back into any of these two equations because they're now set as equal to find your y value. Just going to choose the first one. That's negative because you plug in the -1 for x. And then 7. So that means that your solution is -1, 7. And that is B. But also, that substitution, I'm going to show you guys the second method, and that's called elimination. So I think in this context, elimination is a little bit more complicated and harder to do. Let me see if I can do it. Normally, the thing you do for elimination is you look these two values, the values of the x's, and you find a common factor. Then you multiply each of these to find the common factor, and then you use that to solve the problem. So let's do that right now. So normally you'd use, this is like I said, normally there's one method that works better, and here it's clearly substitution, but just for the purpose of showing you how elimination works, I'm going to look up the greatest common factor between these two. Oh, sorry, no, I meant greatest common multiple. Greatest common factor is just something they share. Greatest common multiple is what they look at. oh, sorry, least common multiple is what they look at. And the least common multiple is 126. So, sorry for the confusion. Greatest common factor is the biggest factor these two numbers share. So for that, it'd be 2. What we want is the least common multiple. That's the smallest value that these two numbers both add up to. And it says here that it's 126. So what you do is you have to turn both of these into 126 and use that to solve the problem. So how do you do that? Well, if you divide like this, then what this shows you is how much you have to multiply by. 126 divided by 18 is 7. So what you do is you multiply this entire thing by 7. Next you have 14. You get 9. So you multiply all of this by 9. So that means you get 7y is equal to 126x plus 25 times 7, 175. But here you have 9y is equal to negative 126x minus 63. Now, one of the good things about elimination in this problem is that it's already set up pretty correctly for us. The goal of elimination is to get rid of these x values. And how do you do that? Well, the first step is you find the least common multiple so that these values are equal to the same, but also you've got to make sure one is positive, the other is negative, so they cancel each other out. So, for example, just as an example, let's say this was a plus 14x. You would need to multiply by negative 9 to make this minus 126. But luckily in this case, they already did the work for you. So now what you do is you just add these two together. These cancel out. That is equal to 16y. And then 175 minus 63 is 112. And now you just solve for y. And y should just equal 7. Great. The final step of elimination, exact same as before, just plug it into any of these equations. 7 is equal to negative 14x minus 7. So that means negative 14x is equal to 14. So x is equal to negative 1. As you can see, we got to the exact same answer. The exact same answer for substitution as for elimination. Both of these methods work really well, but one of them is usually better. All right. Next one. Which equation correctly expresses a in terms of b, x, and y? When something says an equation correctly expresses a variable in terms of b, x, and y, it means your job is to separate this variable so that it stands alone. So what do I mean by that? Let's solve this problem. Your job is to get this a alone. So what do? Reverse PEMDAS like we talked about. The subtraction comes before the multiplication. And then you divide by x. And this should be one of your answers. All right. Let's see. And it is A. So that's your answer. All right, next one. Okay. Also really good. I'm very glad I got an absolute value question because the algebra for an absolute value question is just a little bit different. So when you have an absolute value problem, let's write it out. Your first job is to isolate everything that's not in the absolute value. In this case, that's really easy. It's just 15 minus x. Now what you do is that since this is an absolute value, you have to solve two equations. The first one, the value on the other side is negative. The other one, the value on the other side is positive, since there's an absolute value. So if you solve this, believe. And then that means x is 24. And here, that would be... This means both of these answers should work here. So let's try it out. 15 minus 24, negative 9, but it's an absolute value, so 9 minus 9 is 0. And then 15 minus 6 is just 9, and 9 minus 9 is 0, so both of them work. So just remember, for absolute values, you isolate everything not on the absolute value side, and then you separate it into two equations where the thing on this side is positive or negative. And for this one, the answer is obviously 6 and 24, so it's D. All right. System of equations question, but this time it's phrased just a little bit differently. This one is asking you which equation could be the second equation in this system. That means it is exactly one solution. So when you get a problem that asks you about what another solution would be to have exactly 1, 0, or none, my best option here is something called plug and chug. And this is what you can use for a lot of different SAT questions. You just look at the different options, assume that they're correct, try to solve them, and see what happens. So we're going to solve this equation with this equation, this equation, this equation, and this equation until we find one with the correct answer. All right, so let's get started. So we have 2x minus 2y is equal to 2. And then we have negative 8x plus 8y equals negative 3. Let's assume we're going to use elimination. In this case, these cancel out and equals. Okay, so once you've solved it, look at the final statement and see if it's true. Does 0 equal 5? Obviously not. So that means this answer choice has no solutions. So obviously A didn't work. So now we just go through the other ones and see if they're any different. Next we have 2y is equal to 2. And then 3x minus 3y is equal to 8. Once again, I'm just going to use elimination. All right. Once again, when these cancel out, this does not equal, so there's no solution there. The next one is once again elimination. 없어. 엄마, I'm doing the SAT video right now. I'm recording a video right now for SAT.
오케이, 쏘리. 근데 내일 숙제나 이런 거 하나도 없어?
I finished it all.
오케이. 나 너한테 궁금한 거, 너 아메리칸 에어라인 앱 있어?
Yeah, I think so. It's recording.
Can I check that? Because I need to make sure.
Maybe I don't have American Airlines. I have Southwest, but not American.
그거 나중에 받아.
Oh, okay. Alright, and then for this one, it would be, I'm going to multiply by negative 5 just so. Oh, wait. Yeah, so that it's. Oh, wait, no, never mind. You would not do that. No, negative 5. So that would be 10x minus 10y is equal to 10 minus 10x plus 8y is equal to 5. So that's equal to negative 2y is equal to 15. And this seems to reveal one solution. So the answer here is C. Okay. We can also look at D real quick because I feel like D is going to be another special case, which I'm going to go over with you guys. D is not the correct answer, but it's also something else that sometimes pops up. So we're going to look at that just to show you guys. Yeah, this is going to be one of those special cases. So we're doing the same thing, elimination. Zero equals zero. This is a true statement. But if this side completely equals this side without a variable, this means there's an infinite number of solutions. This is called an identity. So just keep in mind, if this just equals this, then there's an infinite number of solutions. All right, cool. Next up, on January 5th, 1913, Samuel purchased S pounds of sugar and P pounds of potatoes for a total of $0.16. The total weight of the purchase was 4 pounds. Based on the prices in the table, which of the following equations represents the situation? So this one, we're just going to use what we read here to solve this problem. So it says that Samuel purchased S pounds of sugar and P pounds of potatoes for a total of 0.16. So that means we're going to have to find one that is 0.16 on one of the sides. And it looks like A has that option, B has that option. And I think A and B so far, it's going to be one of those two because C and D have an S and P option, but that's just talking about adding them together, and that's more going to do with the pounds. So that'll definitely not be those answers. So it's either A and B, and it says the total weight was 4 pounds. So when they're added together, it equals 4 pounds. Based on the prices in the table, which system of equations represents this situation? All right, so we're going to go over question 5 really quick, but also there's a table that goes with this problem, but unfortunately I forgot to put the table in here. The most important thing to just remember is word problems, add up the context. If the total weight of the purchase was 4 pounds, then S plus P must equal 4. So we can already eliminate A and B. Then you can use the information that's normally in the table. It'll give you like how much it's worth, and then you use that to solve this problem. All right. Next. Sean also read D books that were written in the 20th century by European authors other than those in the table. Number of books referred to by the table was written by British authors in the 20th century. Okay, we're done. Okay. All right, the next question we can do is question number 13. The walls of a small apartment were covered using exactly 3 gallons of paint. The paint was spread uniformly over a total area of 960 square feet. What is the rate in gallons per square foot at which the paint was used? Okay, so it's saying that a wall was covered with exactly 3 gallons of paint. And it's saying the paint was spread across an area of 960 square feet. So in gallons per square foot, it's asking you which rate was it used. So for this is saying that gallons per square foot. So since, sorry, did not mean to do that. Let's go back. Those are some problems we'll look at soon. Since it's saying it's in gallons per square foot, this number should be one of the smaller numbers because it's meant in gallons and the gallon's a smaller value here. Like think about it like this. So it's saying that 3 gallons is going to equal 960 square foot. Since we're talking about gallons here and then the number of gallons per square foot, that means how many gallons are in each of these feet if 960 equals 3. So super simple. Just divide. And 320. So your answer is C. All right, next. The ratio of a person's weight on Earth is a person's weight on the moon is constant. Astronaut who weighs 540 newtons on Earth weighs that amount on the moon. Another astronaut weighs W newtons on Earth. Which of the following expressions represents the astronaut's weight in newtons on the moon? Okay. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we're going to create a ratio because that's exactly what this problem is asking us to do. Let's get rid of this. This part right here says the ratio of a person walking to a moon is constant. So it's saying that an astronaut who weighs 540 newtons on Earth weighs 990 newtons on the moon. So, sorry, did not mean to do that. 540 newtons on Earth, 90 newtons on the moon. And remember what I said earlier, ratios are similar to fractions. You can write them the same way. This is the same as this, 6. So which of the following equation represents the astronaut's weight in newtons on the moon? Okay, so this is like the ratio that you're using, but it's talking about the astronaut's weight in newtons on the moon. And clearly from the problem, we know that the person on the moon weighs a lot less on the moon than on Earth. So the ratio would actually be 90 over 540 because the question is asking you about how much you weigh on the moon compared to the Earth. And this ratio is 0.6. It would be, sorry, not 0.6. It'd be 1 over, wait, no, not 1 over 9. It would be 1 over 6. And then you multiply that to W. Because W is the new value. Remember, a ratio doesn't change. So if you multiply something to the ratio, then it equals the answer. So it'd be 1 out of 6 W. And that's answer choice D. So that's your answer. All right. Next one, question 17. Kind of similar to a problem we've already seen before. Which question has no solution? It already seems like it's going to be this one. Minus x, 0 equals 1. No, it does not. So that is no solution. So your answer is A. All right. If x plus 9 minus 5 is equal to 25, what's the value of x plus 9? Also, super very easy question. X plus 9 minus 5 is equal to 25. We want to know the value of this. So you just separate it. X plus 9 is equal to 30. That should be your answer. And that is answer choice A. Okay, 22. In the linear function g, g of 2 is equal to that, and g of 3 is equal to that. Which equation defines g? Okay, this is a bit of a review question. This is slopes and linear equations, but since it's on here, we're going to go through it just so you guys have a refresher on what to do. This is called function notation. F of x is the same as y. They mean the same thing. So y equals mx plus b is the same as f of x equals mx plus b. The only difference is that if there's a number inside the x, you got to replace every x with that number. So f of 5 would be the same as m5 plus b. So for this problem specifically, the information that we get is that g of negative 2 is equal to 3/4, and g of 3 is equal to 9 over 2. I want you guys to just think of the number in here as like the x value. X equals negative 2 here, x equals 3 here. So that means it'd be negative 2, 3 over 4, 3, 9 over 2. And it says what equation defines g? We obviously need to find the slope and the y-intercept. So we use the general form that we already talked about, y equals mx plus b. To find a slope, you do y2 minus y1. You do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So you're going to do, remember, it doesn't matter what you start off with as long as you keep it consistent. And then I'm just going to do the math on my calculator since this is a question on the calculator section. Not super important. I mean, if you were just to solve this, it's also not too hard. It's just 18 over 4 minus 3 over 4, which is equal to 15 over 4. And the 15 over 4 over 5 is the same as 15 over 4 times 1 over 5, 1, 3, 3 over 4. And that's your slope. Now you need to find the y-intercept. Well, you know what the slope is now. And you also have 2 points that you can use. So to find the slope, to find the y-intercept, just use either this one or this one, plug it into this equation, and solve for b. So here be 9 over 2 is equal to 3/4 times 3 plus b. 9 over 2 is equal to 9 over 4 plus b. Minus 9 over 4, minus 9 over 4. So that'd be 18 over 4 minus 9 over 4, which is equal to 9 over 4. So that means b is equal to 9 over 4. So your answer is A. All right, cool. Question 35. Let's get rid of all this. Okay, so it gives you this equation. The solution to the given system of equations is xy. What is the value of this thing minus this thing? So, all right, once again, this problem isn't really easy to substitute, so we're going to use elimination. And just going to go through the steps of that. And then we're going to do 44 times 3, which is 44 times 3, 132. We got 15 minus 35 is equal to 5 times 17. And then that's equal to 85. And then negative 40, 47. So once again, y is equal to 1. You can just plug it into any of these. Cool. So now you get 8, 1. And now you just plug in this to the 8x minus 3y part. So that's 64 minus 3, which is equal to 61. Cool. And that should be your answer. All right, next one. A scientist takes 2 samples from the Earth's crust, each with a mass of that. Sample A has a density of 3.0 grams per cubic centimeter. Sample B has a density of 2.7 grams per cubic centimeter. How much greater is the volume in cubic centimeters of sample B than sample A? Okay. So when we're doing this problem, we need to know the equation for density. And this is just an equation that I recommend you memorize for the SAT, because it's a really big algebra one that you'll need, not just in the SAT, but also just in math. The equation for density is D equals M over V. D is density, M is mass, and V is volume. And in this problem, we're given 2 of the values. We know the mass for both of the substances because it's the same, and we also know the density that it is. Always, 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 if you have an equation with different variables and you know all of the variables except for one, you can use algebra to find the last one. So for example, for this one, we know the density for the first one is 3.0. We also know that the mass is 3,240. We would just solve for V to find it. And then, cool. So the volume for the first one is that. So volume for sample A would be 1,080. Same thing, exactly the same thing, except for the second one. You start with 2.7. So it's like that. And then you get this. And the question is asking, how much greater is the volume in cubic centimeters of sample B than in sample A? So you just subtract these 2 values, so it's 120 bigger. Cool. And this should be your answer. Oh, not a good box, but yeah, that's your answer. Um, yeah, the biggest thing is just remembering how the algebra works and being able to solve the problem. And that seems like it's everything. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video and you guys learned something from it. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to hit me up. And I'll see you guys again in the next video.